They displayed naked photos of me during an oversight hearing. And they have taken the light of my dad's love, the light of my dad's love for me, and presented it as darkness. They have no
It's been a long time since we have spoken about Hunter Biden, but let me just go ahead and say this really quick. If you're concerned about photos of you nude being posted in Congress, which of course I cannot show you that. Of course, I'm showing you this little graphic, which was Marjorie Taylor Greene holding up a sign of some of the things that were found on the Hunter Biden laptop, which of course we really and truly can't discuss in detail here, or else this channel will get thrown to the shadow realm. Maybe you shouldn't have done the things that you have done. Maybe you shouldn't be, I don't know, getting indicted again. And of course, to go on top of this, there's also this talk about impeachment. Now, guys, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Hunter Biden, this situation. And of course, I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts, but I'm also going to be talking about impeachment because now there's an impeachment inquiry out there again, or one that's about to pop up one more time. I'm also going to be talking about this recent situation. Apparently, Jack Smith, the prosecutor who's going after Donald Trump in the 1-6 case, is trying to get some clarification on whether they can actually lock him up or not. And of course, I've talked about this in a previous video before, that even though I'm not a legal scholar, I do have some indications on whether you can lock somebody up or not, because all you got to do is just research the information. Just type it into Google, and more than likely it'll give you a basic answer. You'll get a lot of articles, you'll read them all. And of course, there's a lot of attorneys who've given a lot of takes on this, and to go on top of this, are the ones that I'm referring to are the ones who've been right the entire time. So this video is going to be mostly purely political in nature. It was not supposed to come out tomorrow. I wanted to let more things kind of shake out, but Netflix, for whatever reason, chose to lay, and I mean lay, several copyright claims after 4 separate uploads and changes on my Leave the World Behind review and what I actually thought, because there were a lot of takes going out there that I don't think were fully nuanced, but we may try that at a later date. We may try that one day next year on the Stories channel. With that right there being said, let's go ahead and get to this. Here is what was said outside of Capitol Hill earlier today, and we'll come back on the other side.
James Comer, Jim Jordan, Jason Smith, and their colleagues have distorted the facts by cherry-picking lines from a bank statement, manipulating texts I sent, editing the testimony of my friends and former business partners, and misstating personal information that was stolen from me. There is no fairness or decency in what these Republicans are doing. They have lied over and over about every aspect of my personal and professional life. So much so that their lies have become the false facts believed by too many people. No matter how many times it is debunked, they continue to insist that my father's support of Ukraine against Russia is the result of a non-existent bribe. They displayed naked photos of me during an oversight hearing. And they have taken the light of my dad's love, the light of my dad's love for me, and presented it as darkness. They have no shame. These same committee chairmen have engaged in unprecedented political interference in what would have already been a 5-year investigation of me. Yet, here I am, Mr. Chairman, taking up your offer when you said we can bring these people in for depositions or committee hearings, whichever they choose. Well, I've chosen. I am here to testify at a public hearing today to answer any of the committee's legitimate questions. Republicans do not want an open process where Americans can see their tactics, expose their baseless inquiry, or hear what
that indictment that came out from California. So apparently this is all tax related, dating all the way back to 2019. There are some people, however, that believe that this indictment was done to keep Hunter Biden from testifying, but then again, though, at the same time, it could also be something separate altogether. I mean, this really should just serve as a lesson to pay your taxes, but then again, though, when you are the son of a president and the son of a former vice president, I guess you could just get away with anything nowadays. I'm in favor of locking Hunter Biden up. However, at the exact same time, I'm also all in favor of getting Joe Biden out of office. It makes you wonder why it is that Hunter Biden is actually going out there and testifying. Is it possible that he's chosen to testify because he fears that maybe his father... Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. Guys, if I was to go through everything that Hunter Biden has done, every bad thing he's done, we'd probably be here for a long time. So I'm going to leave this video from Vinny Vintage in the description box. He did an extremely good job of breaking down every single situation. Of course, it's an older video, but let's just go ahead and be honest. That laptop had a lot of things on it. Of course, you've got Hunter's cocaine crack addiction. You've got all the photos, the things that were going on, and of course, Burisma, and you've got all that stuff there. Now, Joe Biden, as we already know, pretty sure everybody can agree, nobody is doing better with Biden in office. Yes, there are some liberals out there, some TDS sufferers who probably think that they're in a better state mentally, but they're probably suffering financially at this moment in time. And I don't think they're going to be able to use Orange Man bad come 2024. I just don't see them being able to pull it off. And of course, people keep on saying that Biden is going to be replaced, and I don't really see a way for them to do that, given the fact that the vast majority of the filing deadlines to run for president, at least in the Democratic primary, have already passed. And they've already closed down a couple of primaries anyways, including the situation in Florida, which I didn't want to cover, but I'll link something in the description box to discuss that one. Hunter Biden is a situation that the more and more I look at, it's an evil situation, but it's also a sad situation. Many people have theorized that Joe Biden may have used his son more so than his son used him. Hunter gets out of the military, dishonorably discharged. Next thing you know, Hunter Biden, of course, has got this job at Burisma, getting $80,000 a week. Obviously, this is the quirks of being the vice president's son, or the son of a senator. And Biden, of course, loves to mix Hunter with Beau when he talks about both of them. And, of course, he loves to lead us to believe that Beau Biden died in Iraq when that's not the case. Beau died at home of cancer. He went to Iraq, but of course, people keep on thinking of him as dying in combat because Joe continues to bring that up. But still, the thing about Hunter is this here. You get the impression with Hunter that it's very possible that he himself may have actually been abused. By the way, I'm not saying this in defense of Hunter Biden. Don't think for a second that I am. It's obviously pretty bad given the stuff that's on that laptop. But I don't think that there is a whole lot to be said outside of what's already been said. Now, the funny thing about this sort of indictment is that a lot of people theorize that the recent indictment that was laid on him or the recent charges were actually designed to keep him off the witness stand. I think if he got on the witness stand, it would be an absolute disaster for the current administration. It's that information of which the Republican Party wants to suddenly launch an impeachment inquiry. I'm going to play this really quick. This is Jamie Raskin, not exactly somebody that I consider credible in any circumstances because he was the one that was used, and they even did a YouTube video or like a full documentary piece on how it was that he edited all the footage for the second Trump impeachment. They went back and revisited Charlottesville. Of course, it got hilariously debunked in court, but people oftentimes say, you need to take it easy on Raskin because he's a cancer patient. Obviously, I don't want to beat up on cancer patients or anything like that, but dude, you serve the people of the United States. You've been caught doing dishonest things before, so I will roast you if I feel necessary.
They have not laid a glove on President Biden, and they have no evidence of him committing any offense, much less an impeachable offense. So this is where we are. We take it that the Republicans, if they can get their votes together, are planning to vote to conduct an impeachment inquiry today, a repetition of everything that we've seen over the last 11 months. But we are in a remarkable juncture for the U.S. House of Representatives because this is an impeachment inquiry where no one has been able to define what criminal or constitutional offense they're looking for. We don't know what the crime is. The mysteries are called a whodunit because it starts with the crime and then you try to determine who committed it. This is more like a what is it, not a whodunit. We don't know what the crime is, and there are thousands and thousands of pages of evidence But all of the
Typical,
evidence.
we don't have anything. We don't have, look. Joe Biden's laundry list of corruption goes all the way back to the 1970s, okay? China, there's a reason why it is that we call him China Joe. There's a reason why it is that we call him Beijing Biden, his connections to China, all the very, very bad things that, quite frankly, he has done in his past. And, of course, all the additional stuff that's been coming out recently, which I can't go into for the sole purposes of the fact that this is YouTube, not Rumble. Don't worry. We'll talk more about that at the very end of the year when we bring up the end-of-the-year review at Christmas, and I'll give you the updates on the channel that'll be out. I'm more than likely on the 22nd or 23rd. I may release on the 22nd. I'm not sure yet. But still, the thing is this right here. It doesn't look good, especially for a president who's got an approval rating right now that's hovering in the high 30s. Some cases, even the mid-30s. It looks like Biden's probably going to lose. So then comes the topic of impeachment. Now, guys, this right here is where I'm going to be a little bit more on the polarizing side. It's pretty obvious, given everything that Biden has done, everything that's coming out, that Biden does, in fact, need to be impeached. But here's the thing about impeachment. And I said this during the same exact time frame, even though I was not on the platform, where the Democrats tried to impeach Donald Trump twice, is that in order to properly impeach somebody, you're going to need the votes to do so. I don't see any liberals standing their ground to impeach Biden. Maybe it's possible that they could hoodwink us and you get a few votes. But the thing is this here. You can't impeach and remove a president with only 51 votes in the Senate. You have to have two-thirds in the vote, two-thirds to actually get the president removed, which is going to come up again when we talk about Donald Trump here in a second. But the thing is this here, because, there's a reason why I put Trump in the thumbnail, okay? Because obviously we're going to speak about him too. The thing is this right here. Before you go and you impeach a president, and of course he does need to be impeached, you got to understand something. Republicans at this moment in time only have about 219 total members of Congress. They don't really have that big of a majority. And with that slim amount of majority, you run the risk of having rhinos. What I mean by rhinos is that you may have 7 or 8 or 9 liberal Republicans who may all of a sudden break party lines to try to look like they're purified and they're trying to keep the nation together, and the other ones are a bunch of radicals. If you had 245 or 260 congressmen, I would say go right ahead and do it, and do it very hard. But this is a situation where strategically it might not be viable to do this. I would argue that maybe it's best just go ahead and beat him at the ballot box. But of course, there's also the paranoia about that. Also, to go on top of this, when you look at the United States Senate, you look at the makeup, you've only got 49 senators. How many Democrats would actually vote with Republicans on trying to get rid of Joe Biden? How many of them would actually do this? I'm not saying you should do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. What I'm saying is that caution is needed here. You might want to be careful. Maybe what the best thing you can do is, I don't know. Maybe what you should do is continue to investigate, continue to bring more stuff out and give it to the eventual Republican nominee as he runs for president against the current president or against the sitting president, who's more than likely going to be running for re-election. That is what I think you should probably do in this case. The reason why is because you run the risk of having egg on your face. And then to go on top of this, the last thing you would want to do is embolden the literal hell out of the Democrats and unite them. Now, let me say one more thing. We can't talk about 2020 on the platform without getting some form of label from YouTube or anything like that, okay? So I want you guys just to imagine, in 2020, you had the worst national environment possible and everybody in the whole world wanted COVID to end. You had Democrat governors controlling a few battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. And, of course, these were our 3 states that Donald Trump needed. The situation in Arizona was obviously untenable. Nevada was obviously a crap show. The entire country itself, it was just a national environment, which is horrible. California, too. The former President Trump was looking at cruising to a massive electoral college win. The problem is that they chose, and the thing is that they chose to impeach him. When they impeached him, it obviously united his base. Everybody came around, and of course, his entire voter apparatus went from 62.9 million votes. I know it sounds very weird that I said voter apparatus. Shot all the way up to 74.2. Now, it wasn't the impeachment so much that I think did that. I think it was a lot of people responding to COVID and the riots. And even though Joe Biden got 81 million, it seems to me like this was a situation where if you do this to Biden, even though he's not popular nor liked by his own party, it's possible that you could unite them. So take this right here more as a warning. Now with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get to this news that came out about the 1/6.
Physically prevent the proceeding. So I would think the case against him might be even weaker.
Well, it's important that the law that is being applied here doesn't require the physical interruption of a proceeding. So this was a law that was written in the wake of the Enron scandal. The Washington Post reported just a few minutes ago. So it's the Corporate Fraud Accountability Act of 2002, and it holds that anyone who, quote, corruptly alters, destroys, mutilates, or conceals a record, document, or other object, or attempts to do so with the intent to impair the object's integrity or availability for use in official proceeding is guilty. That's the physical aspect. Or two, otherwise obstructs, influences, or impedes any official proceeding or attempts to do so. Either can be punished. And so it's the otherwise word that's been in contention with the lower court being split on this issue. The majority deciding that the otherwise would apply to these more vague kinds of actions. But one judge, Carl J. Nichols, ruled that otherwise could only refer to other kinds of document tampering, like specific kinds of document tampering, perhaps in a digital form or something like that. So the majority opinion wrote that the Nichols ruling was a cramped document-focused interpretation that ignored the plain meaning of the words in the statute. And this is the central issue that the Supreme Court will be taking up. Now, it's also really important to note that when this news first broke, I think that there was a presumption that the immunity question, whether or not Donald Trump has presidential immunity question, which Jack Smith is also trying to expedite, is what's being decided here. That has not been taken up yet. And that's the one that people feel might have a much more significant effect on whether Trump will be found guilty of these more substantive crimes.
Yeah, I mean,
so we're still waiting on that.
Yes, this will affect the prosecution of Trump, though. If it can,
yes.
I mean, it affects it either way, because either then those charges are legitimate or they might be significantly imperiled. I don't know how this works. Maybe you certainly know more about this than I do. With your Harvard Law degree, could Jack Smith just drop those charges and then proceed with the others?
Well, there's no reason to do so prematurely. We'll see what the court says.
Right. No, I mean in the wake of if a court were
yes,
to,
that's why you
overcharge.
That's why you overcharge. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So again, I don't know that
Jack Smith has basically sent the 1-6 case over to the Supreme Court to see if a president can, in fact, be put in prison. Here's the thing. We discussed this in a previous video, and I'll link it in the description box, and I'll also link what Robert Barnes has said, and he's not the only one who has said this. In order to get a president actually sent to prison, you have got to impeach the president, but impeach the president with conviction. Trump was impeached twice, but there was never a conviction. This kind of goes back to what I was saying about conviction, or going back to impeachment. If you're going to impeach a president, you need to actually convict that said president, and you also need to go for removal. You don't have the votes to do so. In this case here, obviously, they want to arrest the former president. Now, this right does not mean that the former president, if he gets to an extremely bad car accident, somebody gets killed, and say he gets arrested and they want to lock him up for manslaughter. That's not what this is talking about. This right is talking about 1-6 and things that occurred while he was in office. They impeached him twice, but never got an actual conviction. Now, why in the world would Jack Smith do this? Well, if you've been paying very close attention to the polling data, and I'm bringing up the polls, just the Real Clear Politics average. By the way, I don't believe all these polls. As a matter of fact, I actually believe the ones that are much, much more narrow, because that's the real truth of the situation. If you want to really just kind of sit back and think on this, maybe what's going on is what me and so many others have said. The more and more and more you try to indict this guy, the more and more his poll numbers will go up, because it will look like a political persecution. He just got some word on the Ejon Carroll case, which is probably not going to be good for him. This New York civil case. Those two cases will eventually go against Donald Trump. He'll probably win them back on appeal. The Georgia case looks like it's probably going to get pushed out to 2024 or 2025. The Mar-a-Lago case is probably going to do the exact same thing. And of course, you've got people talking about the additional charges, as I'm about to show you here, because the hill rising to a small segment on this. And of course, you've got to listen to the noise again. But I'm going to play it for you guys because obviously, once again, it's another case of the federal government overcharging. The reason why they're doing this is because they want to go ahead and put a nail in the coffin in this entire situation. In the case in Georgia, when it came to Sidney Powell, where she supposedly rolled over, they overcharged her. They overcharged Janice Ellis. They overcharged everybody in that case. They overcharged because they didn't really truly have a case. And the case of 1-6 is the exact same thing all over again, except it's just a little bit more severe. And of course, it's an extremely liberal court. It's an extremely liberal district. However, as many other attorneys, Alan Dershowitz especially, have noted that if they were to give a guilty verdict in this case, what would then happen is that Trump would then win it on appeal at the Supreme Court. Basically, what's happening is that they want to stop his poll numbers from rising. That right there is what really and truly is going on here. They'll let the other cases go on as long as they can, but the thing about the 1-6 case is that they realize they've overcharged, and they may have overcharged way too much and a lot more than they probably should have, because after a while, it just looks like a good old-fashioned political persecution. Fact of the matter is that when you overcharge somebody, you've got to have you have to actually have the actual honest-to-God elements that have got to meet the crime. This is the case where the elements are not meeting the crime and it's starting to play out. I'll give you one final example of what I mean. This right here is completely non-related, and I am not in no way, shape, or form comparing Donald Trump to anybody else, but I want you guys to hear me on this right here. One of the things that we're going to be doing on this channel next year is that we're opening up a story section. Don't worry, I'll get to this in a second. And that story section is going to go back in time and look at certain cases that shaped the media. How much the media got it wrong, the division. Of course, this is going to include stories like, say, Tawana Brawley, race scripters like Al Sharpton. I want to do a video on Bernie Getz, the subway shooter, stuff like that there. One case that I really wanted to touch was Casey Anthony. Casey Anthony only got off for one reason and one reason only. She got off because they overcharged her. We all know what the hell really and truly happened in that case. She obviously killed her child. We all know it. But still, at the same time, it probably was a cover-up there involving her. I can't say it right here. But the fact of the matter is she only got off because she was overcharged. You see, if you charge somebody and the elements don't fit the crime, after a while, you can't lock them up for it. This is one of the reasons why elements is such an extremely important class when you go through basic law enforcement training. I know this because I went through it twice. 2014, you know my story. I left the academy early because I had a small injury. It was an abscess tooth that, quite frankly, made PT much, much harder because if you have any actual wind go through your mouth, it makes it 10 times harder. It leaves you in a lot of pain. And, of course, I pulled out and decided to go back 6 weeks later when everything had healed. And, of course, to go on top of that, the class was free. So I went right back through it. Elements is one of the very first classes that you go through, at least I did, in arrest, search, and seizure. Elements is extremely important. In order to get an actual crime and to actually charge somebody for a crime, it's got to actually match the actual elements of the crime itself. This right here looks like a case where they've just simply overcharged the hell out of him and nothing, quite frankly, is sticking. And I think what's going on is that Jack Smith wants some final word on this so that way they can put an end to the charade. Trump will still go through the New York cases, and he'll probably still go through the Georgia case, the Mar-a-Lago case, there's the Clinton sock drawer case, and a few others that just may get him off there. But that case, there could also be delayed till 2025, as well as this one too. So we will see. Fact of the matter is, this entire situation is sad, especially involving Hunter Biden. He does need to be locked up, but at the same time, though, Joe Biden is the one who ultimately needs to pay for all this. With that right there being said, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. It's going to be the only video that's going to be coming out on Thursday. I'll try to have multiple videos out on Friday and, of course, the weekend. With that right there being said, I'll see you guys later.